Something important is happening with UniFi Protect. Over the last few years, Ubiquiti has changed Protect a lot. It started as a closed camera ecosystem, but today it looks much more like a complete video management platform for businesses. And the latest UniFi Protect updates make this direction even clearer. We now have support for third-party cameras, we have verified video evidence and case management, we have multi-site deployments, POS integrations, and more advanced AI. This is not just nice new features. They are removing some of the reasons why businesses traditionally choose established VMS platforms instead of UniFi. So bigger question is not just what's new in Protect 7.2. The bigger question is this: is UniFi Protect becoming a serious VMS competitor? We went through Ubiquiti's latest updates. We also looked at the first feedback from UniFi community, and we are discussing these changes with security integrators in our network. So let's look at what really matters. To understand what's happening, we shouldn't look only at Protect 7.2. Over the last several major updates, Ubiquiti has added many new features, and many of them make more sense for larger commercial security systems. We got better audit logs, we got fabrics, centralized management, Ubiquiti added video walls, enterprise NVR core, multi-site capabilities, and support for larger camera deployments. Now Ubiquiti is adding another layer: verified evidence, chain of custody, better support for third-party cameras, POS integrations, and more advanced AI. Yes, one feature alone doesn't turn Protect into enterprise VMS, but when we put all of these changes together, the direction becomes pretty clear. Ubiquiti is gradually removing the limitations that made Protect difficult to use for larger businesses, and ONVIF is a very good example. For years, one of the biggest limitations of Protect was its closed ecosystem. If you wanted UniFi Protect, you were basically building your system around UniFi cameras. And that's fine for a new installation. But what happens when a business has 50 or 100 or even 500 cameras? For example, customer may already have Axis cameras or Hikvision or Hanwha Vision. And in many cases, they have cameras from several different manufacturers. And those cameras may still work perfectly well. Replacing hundreds of working cameras just to change the video management platform can be very expensive. In some cases, it can make the entire project unrealistic. That's why Ubiquiti's continued development of ONVIF support is important. Protect 7.2 gives users more control over third-party cameras. It expands centralized recording and encoding controls. It also adds time synchronization and camera I/O integration into trigger and action workflows. And we can already see why this matters in UniFi community. One user said that their company is still running around 70 Hikvision cameras. At the same time, they are gradually upgrading their system to UniFi. For them, better ONVIF support makes this transition much easier. I think this could be an important part of Ubiquiti's strategy. A business doesn't have to replace its entire camera system on day one. It can start moving to Protect first, then it can replace the existing cameras step by step. But there is still important limitation. Supporting ONVIF video stream is one thing. Having full integration with everything that camera can do is another. The community is already discussing these limitations. There are questions about smart detection, multi-channel devices, and some more unusual ONVIF configurations. Ubiquiti's own compatibility information also shows these differences. Some AI features for third-party cameras require additional hardware. This can include AI port and AI key. So I wouldn't call a Protect completely open multi-vendor VMS yet, but as a migration platform, it is becoming much more interesting. Another important change is how Protect works with video after incident. Ubiquiti has introduced verified evidence, case management, and chain of custody. Protect can now use cryptographic verification for exported video. This helps confirm that the video still matches the original recording. This doesn't mean that the file cannot be edited. You can still modify it, but after the file has been changed, the system can verify that it is not longer identical to the original evidence. For businesses, this can be very important. Imagine a theft at retail store or incident in warehouse. Maybe the video needs to go to the police, insurance company, HR or legal team. Now we need to know more than what camera recorded, who accessed the evidence, who downloaded it, and was the original file changed. That's why case management and chain of custody are important. And this didn't start with one update. Ubiquiti has been developing audit, login, and user activity tracking for several versions. So Protect is moving beyond simply recording video. It is also starting to help businesses manage investigations. And that's an important step for a professional security platform. We are seeing a similar development with AI. When Ubiquiti introduced AI Key, many people had a simple question: why do I need another AI device if my cameras already have AI? The latest updates make the answer is little clearer. Now has second stage AI verification. The camera can make the first AI detection at the edge. Then AI Key can provide another level of analysis when event needs more verification. We are also seeing more specialized AI features. PPE detection is one example. It can detect things like helmets and safety vests. And there was interesting reaction in the UniFi community. One user asked if second stage verification requires AI Key. And answer was simple: yes, AI Key. Another user then said that AI Key was finally starting to look useful. My guess is that AI Key is becoming a separate intelligence layer inside larger Protect systems. The cameras can handle one level of AI analysis. More complex AI processing can then move to dedicated hardware. PPE also shows how the role of security cameras is changing. A camera can now tell us if somebody is wearing a helmet or safety vest. So the camera is not only helping us investigate security incidents anymore, it can also provide information about business operations. And we are seeing this across the security industry. Cameras are gradually becoming business sensors. They can be used for security, but they can also help with safety, logistics, retail analytics, and other business processes. And Ubiquiti is clearly moving in this direction too. Some new features are not as exciting visually, but they may be even more important for certain businesses. Point of sale is a good example. Ubiquiti has been developing POS integration for some time. Protect 7.2 expands with a point of sale API or API. It can connect transaction data with video. For retail, this is very practical. Imagine a suspicious transaction or refund. A loss prevention team can connect that event with a related video. They don't have to manually search through hours of footage. And again, we found a good real-world example in the community. One user said that the lack of POS integration was one of the reasons their company didn't choose UniFi. Now this gap is starting to close. We can see the same pattern with multi-site management. Fabrics, centralized video walls, enterprise NVR core, and multi-location management are useful for larger businesses. Think about retail chains, warehouses, offices, property management companies, or any business with many locations. When we look at all these updates together, there is a clear pattern. Ubiquiti seems to be looking at reasons why businesses choose other platforms, and step by step is trying to close those gaps. So can Protect really replace Milestone, Genetec, or another established VMS on every enterprise project? I don't think so. At least not yet. Those platforms have been developing for many years. They have a large integration ecosystem. They offer advanced permissions and specialized workflows. They also support huge range of third-party hardware. Protect still has limitations. We can see this especially when we talk about complex multi-vendor systems. But I don't think this is the only comparison that matters anymore. For many businesses, the question is not, can Protect do everything that most advanced VMS can do? A better question may be, does Protect do everything my business actually needs? And Ubiquiti has another major advantage: its ecosystem. Networking, cameras, access control, alarms, intercoms, storage, AI, centralized management can all work inside the same environment. And Ubiquiti does this without traditional per-camera software licensing model used by many professional platforms. So that's why I think Protect could become a very serious VMS competitor, especially in the mid-market and in less complex enterprise projects. Ubiquiti doesn't need to copy every feature from every traditional VMS. It needs to close the gaps that actually matter to businesses. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Of course, the next question is how all of this works in real installations. We are already discussing these changes with security integrators in our network, and as we continue filming real projects across North America, we will be watching these new features closely. We want to see how useful AI key is on larger systems. We want to know if businesses really use features like PPE detection. And we want to see how Protect works when a company has many locations. We also talk with integrators who design and install the systems. But we also want to hear from the businesses that use them every day. A feature can look great in product presentation, but the real question is simple. Does it solve a real problem for the customer? So we will keep following the development of UniFi Protect. And as we visit more real installations, we will show how these features work outside of Ubiquiti's demos. If you are already using the latest Protect updates, let us know what you are seeing, especially if you are using ONVIF cameras, AI key, or Protect on larger commercial projects. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Need a security system installed? Finding a trusted, qualified integrator isn't easy. Pipl Systems is a platform to find verified, professional security integrators. Browse by location, see real projects, and choose a company you can actually trust. Pipl Systems. Find your trusted security integrator today.